Hey everyone, it's CreativeNameToStandOut, and this will hopefully be the first of many battle reports that I'll be posting on YouTube. This first battle report takes place at a local shop here near Monterey, and it's against an opponent I've played about 3 times. He's bringing 3,000 points of Toon Kings, and I'm bringing Dark Elves. I bring a level 4 Sorceress and a level 2 Sorceress. So for my level 4 Sorceress, these are spells I rolled up. It's Glittering Robe, Enchanted Blades, the Hounds, and Final Transmutation. I kept the Hounds because my opponent doesn't have a lot of armor, and so I only figure I'm going to get about D6 hits off of them, so I might as well take the D6 missile thing. That's a little bit cheaper. Uh, so my mage, the level 2 mage, she takes dark magic, and she gets 2 missiles. One's the chill blade, and the other one is the close combat attack one. None of them really come into effect, and you'll see why. So here are my spells, and my opponent picked these spells. He took a level 4 and a special character named Something the Black. I don't know how to pronounce his first name. Uh, so he got both the Lore of Death and the Toon King's lore. He has a lot of spells to choose from, but of course, since dice are limited, and though he can create a lot in this game, he can't use a lot of them at once. But it gave him a lot of tools, and so these are his spells. And here's an overview of the board. Uh, this is the terrain we rolled up randomly. Some of it became magical. We have 2 hills, 2 mysterious forests, a river, a fence, a banestone, and a bridge. The banestone got set up in the center. The forests ended up being things that didn't really matter. I believe the far one was a blood forest, and the closer one was a abysmal forest. We played the hills normal, and then the wall was just a wall, but it didn't really come into play. And the river, we never figured out what it was because we have a bridge there for the crossing. So yeah, here's an overview of the board. And here's his deployment from left to right. In the far left, he has 4 chariots. Looks like 3, but there were 4. Next is his temple, or what is that? This casket of souls. Next to that is a unit of Tomb Guard. I think there's about 35 of them. I couldn't remember. In that unit, he has a Tomb Prince. Behind that unit are 2 Screaming Catapults. The unit next to that is just regular skeleton archers, and that is where his special character is and is level 4 currently. Moving on to the center of his lines, there's his unit of archers again. They're in horde formation, so there's probably about 30 of them. Then a giant block of regular spearmen. Actually, I don't know if they were spearmen, but they are regular skeleton warriors. And in that unit, he also has 2 prints. So even if I kill his main wizard, he has a pretty good leadership across the board, so that the crumbling won't have too much effect. And then next to that, he has great weapon Ushabi before we get across the river. And on the other side of the river is his Necrosphinx, followed by 4 more chariots, and rounding out our 4 carrions. Now, starting with my deployment, facing his chariots on my right, his left, are my 12 Coldwind Knights. It's actually 11 Coldwind Knights with a Lord level character in them. The Lord has a Chill Blade. I believe it's the Trickster Shard, whichever one makes you reroll your invulnerable saves. He has a 5+ invulnerable save, and then stuff on him that lets him have a 1+ armor save. In front of the Coldwind Knights are 5 Dark Riders. They have crossbows. So here in the center are my 10 crossbowmen. Behind them are 18 witches, and beside them is my general's bunker. She's a level 4 metal mage. She has the standard discipline in the unit. I think there are 24 spearmen, and she has a sacrificial dagger. Beside her is my hammer unit I use. It's 24, right? No, 34 executioners, and with them is a witch who's naked, but she does have the standard that lets them strike at initiative 5. And then behind her is the Hydra. My plan here so far is I have the knights matched up against a flank that only has 4 chariots that will be bearing down on them. So I'm hoping to break through those and then be in his flank. And in that flank, it just happens to be his catapults and Casket of Souls. So hopefully I can get rid of those pretty fast. Meanwhile, this center part will be advancing forward. I kind of make a mistake right here. At the beginning of the game, I kind of thought that Tomb Kings would be aggressive. I don't play them very often, but I just thought, well, they'll probably be aggressive, so I'll put my crossbowmen out front. Maybe at some point in the game he'll charge them, I'll flee, and then my witches can charge whatever they'll charge my crossbowmen. Unfortunately, he doesn't have to be very aggressive, so that ends up being a mistake that I make. But yep, so here's the center. Let's move on to the next. Okay, and here on my left flank I have my large unit of spearmen, and in front of them I have 10 crossbowmen with my level 2 dark magic mage. I have them matched up against his 4 chariots, Necrosphinx, and Carrion. Hopefully that unit can hold all those units up. It's just how deployment worked out, but yeah, I'm going to try to send the spearmen up, intercept the chariots, withstand maybe a round and a half of combat, and use that time to hopefully advance the center of my lines up, forward, and already into the enemy, hopefully doing lots of damage. Not sure if it's going to work, but we can find out. And here is my Vanguard move. I figured one of two things. If I get first turn, I can go ahead and move my cavalry up closer to that cast of skulls, hopefully be able to take it out. Or if he gets to go first, maybe that will present a target that he can't pass up, and he'll send those chariots in, which will allow my Koldu Knights to counterattack. So yeah, so this is my pre-game movement, and here we go with first turn. I end up not getting first turn, so let's see what he does. So this is his right flank. He takes his 4 chariots and he moves it across the bridge, and then he moves his carrion from behind them. He flies his Sphinx over the river and sideways, which is kind of weird, but you see why, I guess, in the next frame. He moves his Shabi up, and he leaves his spearmen and his grave guard, which are not kind of the corner of the picture right now, where they are, and he brings his arrows up a little bit so they can be in range to shoot me. Here's a picture of the left flank. Everything pretty much stays still. He's getting ready to fire his catapults, and the chariots charged my fast cav. This is a picture of the beginning of the magic phase. At this point, it becomes really apparent that he has a lot of power dice. His little casket generates D3, and he's rolling normal power dice, and he's getting 2 channeling chances, and I think he got it channeled 1 in this phase. And then later I find out that he has a staff that allows him to save some of the dispel dice from my turn so that I can have it as power dice in his turn. So to start his magic phase, he goes for the magic movement spell that allows his army to move, an extra move. And so he just moves his units forward and closer. And so here is his right flank. There's not much to show on the left flank because his chariots are in combat already, and his other units he wanted to stick still, so there's really no reason to move those up. I believe he moves his archers up, and then we go into the shooting phase. His archers take a shot at my leftmost crossbowman. He kills 3 and passed my break test. His catapults open up, and the first one drifts off my executioners and hits my Hydra. He does 3 wounds, and then his second one hits dead center. He doesn't get a lot of wounds. I think he hits about 21 of them, and 8 of them die. His chariots absolutely destroy my fast cav. I think I did about 2 wounds from my stand and shoot. But yeah, so this is sad that I lost my fast cav, but this is exactly what I was trying to do. I wanted to set them up to either over into the forest, hopefully take some wounds that way, and then get charged, or stay where they are, which he reforms, and I charge him with my cavalry. Here's a picture of that charge. I really didn't need that much. He was only 8 inches away because I also had the banner swiftness, so my movement went from 7 to 8. So I connect to the charge, and hopefully I just break through, and I'm able to start attacking his uh, cast of skulls and the skull catapult, and then I'll be in his back lines. Besides the cavalry, I wasn't really in range for any other charges, so I went ahead and started moving forward with my center line, and I tried to move my spearmen as fast as I could to intercept those chariots and the hero titan. At this point, I wasn't even sure he was going to use both of those units to try to crush my spearmen. I thought maybe the chariots would run in, deal as much damage as they could, and the hero titan would kind of fly and start attacking my center from behind. So here's hoping that he really, really wants to destroy all the spearmen, and he sends both of them in. Here's the picture of my center after movement. You can also see how my crossbowmen are really in the way of my witches. I still move them up. I go into the magic phase. I first try to cast Power of Darkness with my level 4 with 1 dice. I roll a 1. Usually not a big deal. I have the Sacrificial Dagger. So I use it, kill a guy, and roll another 1. So there goes a large portion of my magic phase. I move on to my level 2. She only has 2 magic missiles. I try to cast Blade Wind with 4 dice. My opponent uses a Dispel Scroll. I think he might have used this, I definitely think he used this too early, but I can see why he did it. He wanted to save his power dice to move on to, or his Dispel dice to turn into power dice for the next phase. And for my last 4 dice, I cast Chill Wind, and he was kind of obligated to try to dispel that with his dice, because had he not, and I did 1 wound to his archer unit, he wouldn't have been able to shoot, and that's a big part of his army, I suppose. So he used his dispel dice to get rid of it. My shooting phase went forward, and I really didn't do too much. I mean, with only maybe like 16 crossbowmen, I'm not going to do that much damage to him, especially considering the fact that he can just use his magic to replenish those casualties. So I pretty much, that's the end of my turn, and we go into turn 2. Oh no, we don't go to turn 2. This is the combat from the chariots and the cold ones. My lord goes in, he kills a chariot, the rest of the cavalry kill the other 3 chariots. I overrun, I go about 8 inches, and I think in hindsight, I probably should have just reformed, but I just went ahead and I reformed, and this is where I am at the end of turn 1. So this is what it looks like at the beginning of turn 2. And here are his charges. He declares a charge with both his chariots and his sphinx into my spearmen, and he also just declares a charge with his carrions into my crossbowmen. I decide to flee. I measure it out. I need to roll under a 9 to stay on the board, but I roll an 11, so there goes my wizard and the crossbows. He then opts to redirect into the side of my executioners. I don't think this is a bad thing. I'm pretty sure that even though I'm only getting 4 executioner attacks right now, or I think it's 5, I can have my witch move to the side, and I might be able to kill half of them. I think the best thing about this, though, is that it saves my executioners from being shot at for a turn. And then my spearmen, I think they can absorb this hit. They're obviously going to be stubborn. I just need to pass that test. But with my character moving to the corner there, I'm pretty sure I'll be able to. Here's a better picture of the charge the chariots made. Here's a picture of the other side after movement. He's slowly moving the throne out of my charge arc. Currently still in my charge arc, but he also has a magic phase, and he'll probably get that movement spell off because now he is generating 3 power dice with the skull throne, and he's generating 3 dice because of the staff that his special character is holding, and of course his regular amount of power dice. I'm just going to let that spell go through because the other spells are a little bit more dangerous. So yeah, here's that. His shooting is not very effective this turn. He kills a few here and there. And so here's a picture of after combat. He kills, it looks like 12, 13, 15 guys in his attack. So not bad. I'm steadfast, and I do pass that steadfast attack. Over there on the side, you can see all the carrion are dead. He charged in. I moved over my witch, and out of 9 attacks, I did 8 wounds, and it was enough to kill his carrions, which was great because that allowed me to reform. I'm sure most of you know by now that the FAQ beforehand says that you have to kill everything, and so we played it like that, and I just got lucky, killed the carrion, and was able to reform. Before I forget, in the last picture, it showed my cavalry being still in the charge range of that School of Thrones. Well, he did get that movement spell off, and he did move it out of my charge arc, and just to put a little bit more icing on the cake, he got off another spell that allowed him to make me take dangerous terrain checks if I moved, and so that's gonna further hinder my movement. So yeah, he is having a pretty good magic phase, even though his shooting phase was not very good this turn. And here's a picture of the executioners after they defeat the carrion. It's pretty nice being able to defeat the unit in my turn or in his turn, so it allowed me to reform. And now, where I was worried that I wasn't be able to really help that side, they were just going to die and hopefully hold them off. I'm now in a position really to crush both flanks of the enemy before I start pushing forward. So yeah, so here is the end of his turn, and we'll be going into my turn. Alright, here's a picture of the beginning of my turn 2. I go ahead, and even though I have the spell on me, I reform. I only lose 1 knight. It's my champion, of course. Here my crossbowmen move full march up with my witches right behind them. In my magic phase, I get glittering scales off on my mage's bunker, and I get enchanted blades off on the spearmen here in the combat. As you can see, this is after combat. I charged my executioners in. I believe I did 3 wounds to the Sphinx, and then my spearmen I think did another 2 wounds to the chariots. He, as you can see, didn't really kill out of a lot more guys, maybe another 4 or 5. So I do win combat by a lot, but luckily I won it enough where he still has another chariot left. This again saves me from being shot at with 2 units, and it gives me a chance to beat the beat the unit in combat, which allows me to reform. Otherwise, if his chariot would have faded away from combat resolution, I would have been stuck facing that direction, and I think it would be better to beat him in combat and then reform. He starts off turn 3 by declaring just a charge of the Shabi. He declares it into my crossbowmen. I see no reason to stay there, and I see an opportunity to free up my witches from being blocked by them. So I flee. I only flee 3 inches, but it's enough. He fails his charge and he moves over. He moves forward. I think it was like 5 inches. He does attempt to redirect into my witches, and that charge is the one he fails. So he doesn't declare any more charges. He sees that he can't get his Throne of Skulls or Skull of Thrones or whatever it's called out of the way, so he moves it to redirect my cavalry from getting straight into his lines. And then he shuffles everything else, kind of creates another perimeter, and goes to begin his magic phase. Here is a picture of the board after movement and in the magic phase. He tries to begin the magic phase by casting some sort of dark death magic spell. I don't remember which one it is, but I do know he came up short. Oh, it was the Doom and Darkness. It came up short. So really shut down all of his death magic because he failed to cast it by something really low. So he moves on to his Tomb King's lore to start casting things, and I'm just able to shut it down. So he doesn't really get a lot done in the magic phase. So he goes in the shooting phase. I don't have a picture of it, but if you notice, my witches are really close to that Banestone, enough to be in the realm of 6 inches. And so he starts shooting. He misses with the first catapult, but the second catapult hits dead on, and I think kills half of them, if not a little bit more. There's only 18 of them. And then he unloads with the arrows, and being that it's easier to wound me and witches don't wear armor, he completely obliterates the unit. So I don't have a picture of it, but from this point on, there aren't any more witches. Let me add one other thing. I forgot. The magic phase wasn't a total loss. I forgot that before he had failed casting that second, it was a second death spell he tried to cast. The first spell was the Fate of Bajuna, and he used that to assassinate my Lord character. I think he rolled a 7. He got 3 wounds, and I couldn't make a single save. So yeah, so it wasn't a total loss. It just wasn't. It ended prematurely because he was really creating a lot of magic dice or power dice in this game. So at this point, my I don't really have enough power in the center to really hit his lines and begin, crushing just the middle part of his army. And my knights are again going to be redirected. So I'm not entirely sure what to do at this point. All I have really going for me now is this combat. So I'm really hoping now that I, quickly dispatch this chariot, you know, barring any horrible rolls, and I'm able to reform and maybe start pressing from the other flank, because my center and my left are just getting tangled up or shot to pieces. So yeah, so here's a picture of before combat, and here's a picture of after combat. This picture is taken out of sequence because I've been forgetting to take pictures after everything. But this is where my army stands after I beat him in combat, and I think in this turn I had declared charges against his Yushabi when their back was turned, and I actually just failed those charges. But regardless, yeah, I do beat him. I do reform. I'm more on the edge of the forest than I am in this picture. But yeah, so this is what it looks like uh, generally after combat. So I apologize. This is the first time I've tried to do a battle report, and so it seems that at the end of his fourth turn, my fourth turn, and the beginning of my fifth turn, I didn't really take enough clear pictures. So let me just recap using this picture, which is the beginning of my fourth turn, to tell you what happened. At the end of his fourth turn, in his fourth turn combat, I defeated his chariot, was able to reform, and in my turn, I declared some charges. I declared a charge with my knights into his skull throne thing, and I declared charges with my Hydra, my executioners, and my spearmen in into the side of his units, of the Yushabi specifically, because at that point in time he was facing sideways after a failed charge in his turn. I failed charge with all those. My knights charged and defeated the war machine, and then they overran. They didn't overran too far. They weren't in combat again, and so their flank is facing the tomb guard, while my executioners are short, facing spearmen that might come through and charge them in the forest. And so here in his fifth turn, he pivots the Yushabi to face me, so that when I charge him or whatever charges him, he'll be able to fight it. So yeah, I'm sorry about that. And here's another picture of that fifth turn movement. I know I'm skipping the charges, but I just want to let you see that his Yushabi are no longer presenting their flank to my forces. He's turning to face it. He declares some charges. He declares his tomb guard into my knights, and he declares. Actually, that's all he declares. I was surprised that he did not declare his spearmen into my executioners. Uh, I mean, I think I may have done that because my executioners were currently in the forest. But then again, I probably could have beat those spearmen now that I think about it. What he did do, though, was he ends up moving the spearmen forward just like an inch in front of the Yushabi. And he was under the impression, he didn't tell me this at the time, it was after the fact, I think it was in my turn, that he thought my frenzied witch hag was going to force my executioners to charge his spearmen. But in fact, I can take a leadership test to make sure I don't charge the closest unit. And so yeah, so he moves the spearmen up just a hair in front of the Ushabi. I'm going to tell you that now, just in case I didn't take a picture of that. Here's the picture of what happened when he declared the charge of his Tomb Kings against my knights. I chose to flee because I was going to lose that. So I went ahead and fled. I fled through the forest. I lost one knight. I rolled a 12 to get away. He failed charged, of course, and he ambled forward some. And so that was his charges. Here's a picture of my knights fleeing the charge. You see my crossbowmen are fleeing. I think the turn before they failed the rally, so they were fleeing too. Here's a slightly wider picture of what's going on, just so you can see where everything generally is in relation to everything else. You can see the executioners, the Hydra, my bunker, and the fleeing units. Now, in the last magic phase, I got the number 6 spell of metal off on his Tomb Guard, and I killed quite a few of them. I didn't kill any of his characters, but the resulting stupidity test actually hurt one of his catapults, which kept it from firing. And then this turn, his catapult misfired, so I was saved from shooting. And then the archers, none of my units were near the Bane Stone, so he only did a couple of wounds here and there. I don't really remember where, but he did fire them. Otherwise, he's just preparing for the Executioner and Hydra charge on the side there. So, moving on. And so here is the beginning of my turn 5. I declare my Executioners and Hydra to charge into the Ushabi. I was afraid they weren't going to fit them in there because I run my Executioners 7 wide, and there wasn't a lot of space in there. But I did manage to get my Executioners in there and my Hydra, and so I hope just to crush through and run into those archers behind them. If not, as you can see, it looks like I put myself up there to be flank charged by some spearmen, which could end up being a bad thing depending on how I roll. Here I just wanted to show that my knights and my crossbowmen both rally, so they can't do anything, but it's good to see that they turned around. In the magic phase, I throw 6 dice at the number 6 spell in the metal magic lore. I escape the transmutation, final transmutation. Do quite a few damage. Kill a bunch of those guys. The guy's kind of off into a pile or how much I killed. I'd say a lot, way over average, but felt good. And on top of that, I think I rolled a 9 for the miscast, so not too bad. I take a wound. She's pretty far away from the enemy, so it shouldn't really matter. And the Banestone wins again. The thing that made it so easy to kill my witches really helped me just cream those Ushabi. So I overrun. My Hydra makes it into the archers. My executioners don't, but luckily they run just far enough to be out of the charge arc of the spearmen. So yep. As you can see, I also, and I guess in the movement phase, I didn't mention this, but my spearmen moved up into the forest. I have no idea why I did that. That's not a really smart thing. He's gonna probably bring those spearmen in of his and charge me. We'll probably not do too many wounds to each other, but he's definitely gonna have probably a better combat res, probably just for the charge, and not being steadfast even at a -1 is going to be painful, especially since judging by this picture, I'm not near the reroll, and I'm definitely not near my general. So bad play, but took a close-up picture of the overrun. So yeah, you see, executioners fall short. And because I forgot to take another picture, I brought you back to this previous picture just to show you where the spearmen were. He declared a charge with those spearmen against my spearmen and rolled a double 1. So yeah, he's just that's just not lucky at all. So yeah, he came up short there. Um, he didn't charge with his Tomb Guard into the Hydra. I'm not entirely sure why he did that. I think he wanted to cast some magic, and I think the magic he wanted to cast must have been something other than augments. But regardless, it didn't really have that much of an impact of the game. And so, yeah, so it's turned into too much. His skeletons attacked my Hydra. My Hydra killed almost, I think, his entire back rank after combat res. So, yeah. So, in the final turn of the game, there wasn't much else to do. I mean, I already had my Hydra in there. I was going to charge my Executioners in there. So it came down to my Cold Knights. I figured, I probably had won this game already. I really didn't take too many casualties. I think at this point I lost my one unit of crossbowmen, my level 2 wizard, and honestly I think that was it. And while I took out his chariots, his hero titan, and those Yushabi, but I had a chance to really, see what my knights could do because this is actually the first time I've actually used Cold One Knights. So I went ahead and I declared charge with my Cold One Knights into his Tomb Kings, Tomb Guard. They were already depleted from magic. He had his special character in there, and he had a Tomb Prince in there. So I just thought, throw him in there. We'll see what happens. If I lose my knights, so be it. This isn't a tournament game, so I thought I'd try it out. So, yep, I declare charge there, and I declare a charge with my executioners into those archers. Yeah, this picture is taken midway through the combat. I think the witch is attacked, and right now I'm dividing my dice up with my executioners into into his level 4 Tomb Lord Wizard and like the few guys that can attack actual skeletons. And so I haven't even swung yet with my Hydra. So there you go. There you can see combat. And here is the Cold Ones combat. Looks like I killed about 5 to 7 of those Tomb King. It's kind of hard to tell because I don't think he took his casualties out all the way from the last time. And I actually also killed his special character. His special character I think was toughness 5, and he only had 3 wounds, and he didn't have an invulnerable save. So I was forced to put a couple attacks on him, and I think I put, I mean, I guess just enough to do the combat res, obviously. I lose 2 knights in return from killing. One was a killing blow attack, and one was me just, flubbing a armor save. I end up winning combat, so we end up just sticking. I think he loses a couple more to combat res. But yeah, killed special character, did a lot of damage. Kind of like Cold One Knights, they obviously need support, but and they're a huge point investment, so I don't know, unless I play 3,000 point games, I can't really see myself bringing them. And as you can see here, I finish off those skeleton archers. Pretty much the end of the game at this point because it was turn 6. All he had left were his skull catapults. He had a tomb prince in each of his remaining units, which were the tomb guard and the skeletons. And again, all that I lost was I lost my lord. I lost my level 2 mage, and I lost the crossbowman she was with, and the dark riders. So I lost some chaff. I lost a pretty cheap character, and then I lost a lord who was not cheap, but he wasn't enough to swing it into a tie. So yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this first battle report. This is my first run at it. Hopefully I can make these a little bit faster, and maybe later I can put in some more like opinions on how I was playing the game. But right now, here's just a base layout, and I hope you enjoyed it.